passports and partnerships, let's explore Southwest Nova Scotia to the world and more. Student voices bright and true, a global journey just for you.
Welcome back to another episode of Passports and Partnerships, where we're sharing the amazing stories that connect us with the international students in the Tri-Counties. Welcome, Stacey Fells.
Nice to be here.
I really appreciate you agreeing to come on and have a conversation around your experience with the International Student Program. How about you share a little bit about your family and how you first became aware of the International Student Program, and maybe what sort of life experiences has kind of led you here?
Okay, well, I was living abroad in South Korea from 1997 until 2021.
Right.
When I came back to Canada, I was sharing an office with Shelley Mann. So,
Who's Shelley Mann?
Who's Shelley Mann? Shelley is your director, one of your directors here for NSISP. And Shelley had some homestay students at the time who became really good friends with my daughter. And from there, you know, she just said, hey, you've got some extra space in your house. Why don't you consider hosting? So
Absolutely.
That's where.
Yeah. Do you think your time in Korea kind of opened the idea of curiosity of other cultures that allowed you to open your heart and home to?
Right. So even though I lived in South Korea, we were a very big part of the international community there.
Right.
So my children from a very young age participated in multicultural festivals, and some of their really good friends were from different cultures. Right. So one of my daughter's friends, dad was American and mom was Korean, and another friend, her mom was from Mexico and her dad was Korean. So we had a lot of friends from different cultures. So I thought, why not continue that with, hosting some kids?
Since Shelley kind of presented that to you and you started hosting, how many students have you hosted, and kind of describe that experience? Have they been short-term students? Have they been full year, longer term?
Okay. Yeah. So the first student that we hosted, I think it was fall of 2022.
Right.
We had a young lady that she was technically from Spain, but she was born in France, and she was born in England, and her parents, one was Spanish and one was French.
Right.
So she called herself French, not necessarily Spanish, but so technically she was from Spain.
Right.
Then the following year, we had short-term students twice from Colombia. Then we had a long-term student, a boy from Japan. We had and continue to have a boy from Korea and a boy from Turkey right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when you think of all those different countries and cultures coming together, how has your own family kind of interacted, grown from the experiences of those that maybe they had some experience in South Korea, but maybe not, right?
Right.
You mentioned some other countries.
Yeah, so we started off hosting a girl because my daughter was home at the time. She's in university now. So we thought a young lady would be a good fit for her.
Right.
So they hit it off. She was the older sister, got to show the younger one around town and learn a little bit about her culture too. Then when my daughter went to university, we started hosting boys so that my son could have some friends or older brothers to hang out with. So it's been fantastic. My son's really come out of his shell. He was and continues to be sometimes quite shy.
Right.
But they're all in that kind of phase now where they're just like brothers.
Yeah.
The ones that are with us, the long-term boys.
That's the amazing part, because when you think about it, we're really starting with someone new. But very quickly they become family.
Right. These two boys now, I mean, I'm not their parent, but they're respectful, they're polite, they're comfortable in our home, and they fit in seamlessly.
One of the big goals with the International Student Program is an intercultural exchange for our students coming into our communities, and then our communities sharing some of their culture, but also learning others. You and your family are uniquely positioned that you're able to kind of provide that Canadian experience as well as influences from your time in South Korea. Kind of share how that's gone with being able to share from your perspective with the students you've hosted, and likewise the things that you've been able to take from the students from Colombia and other countries.
Right, because we did live in Korea as long as we did, and my children are half Korean. We do eat a lot of rice and Asian-inspired cuisine, so I'm sure our boy from South Korea really appreciates that. Yeah. Homesickness sometimes can get the better of kids here, and food culture is something that if you have that little taste of home, sometimes it can just get you through to the end of your program. We've opened up our home to a lot of students other than just our homestay kids. It seems to be the central meeting point for a lot of the Asian kids. They'll come over and they'll have some home-cooked meals, or they'll cook it themselves. Yeah. We have an endless supply of rice and seaweed at my house. Yes. So the Japanese kids, the Korean kids, but it's not just the Asian kids that come over. It's the friendships that my homestay students have made with their fellow NSISP kids. Yep. Food culture is big, but we do eat Canadian food as well. Right. Right. So last week, we had sloppy joes, nice. Or manwich. And, we fancied it up a little bit, but the kids were like, what is this? And this is Canadian food. Or something like poutine. I'm sure all the kids have had poutine by this point.
Yes. But when you think of all of the different cultures that have come in and you see that your home has become kind of a hub, kind of share as a host mom the types of qualities that make an ideal situation where kids feel comfortable coming to your home like that?
I think we start off with welcoming the kids into the home. I like to put like a little basket in their room with some snacks and different like essentials, because they might be hungry and they might not want to tell you that they're hungry. Make them comfortable as possible from the get-go. I think sitting down and talking about expectations, not necessarily talking about rules, but, expectations. And I think the kids will tell you that, we like Stacey says she doesn't have a lot of rules. Well, we have rules, but we just don't frame them as rules,
exactly.
I think it's a two-way street. The kids have to be open to, obviously they've come from all corners of the world. If they're open to new experiences and you're open to learning from them as well, right. I think that's, one of the key points that you're going to need for this relationship.
If right now there's likely, there'll be students, there'll be some host families right now listening to this, but there could be some people in our community that aren't really familiar with the International Student Program. If they were listening to this and thinking, maybe that's for me, what would you suggest as far as, to someone thinking about the International Student Program? How has it changed your family? Would you do it again?
That's a really good question. I think hosting is not for everyone. You really have to be able to let go of some things. If you are a micromanager or used to things being done a certain way, and maybe the students don't quite catch on sorting garbage or what goes in the green bin versus going into the garbage or recycling. If you're not willing to guide and have students sometimes make mistakes, maybe hosting right now is not for you. But I think the positives outweigh, any possible negatives that there could be. Right. We did have a couple instances of flooded toilets, right. And or garbage cans overflowing. Things that the way that it's done in a certain culture was not the way that it is done here. That's you have to be able to take things with a grain of salt sometimes and just teach and guide and not necessarily nitpick about little things. My kids have had positive experiences with the students that have come into our homes. We haven't had any negative experiences. We've had students come in that were nervous. You could visibly see the nerves. Right. And once you just tell them I'm not going to yell. I don't have high expectations. We'll work through this together. Think of it as your home.
You hit on a few really big points there. Obviously it's around communication, mutual respect,
Right.
bit of collaboration at times. And I think that's key in having a successful student-host relationship. Certainly, you've kind of nailed it that all students come with different life experiences coming in. And
Right.
some, they've had no chores or any responsibilities in their homes, and some have, helped their families back home significantly. So
Right.
it's trying to find what works for the host family and what works for the students so that those expectations are clear so that they can be met. When you think of kind of some of the things that the students that you've hosted find really special or unique, do you find yourself looking at Yarmouth in a different way? Sometimes we take things for granted, we think.
Because I was away for a very long time, I am also looking at things sometimes through their eyes, because a lot has changed here in the time that I was away. It is the little things sometimes that you might take for granted. So, we have a beautiful lighthouse. Not a lot of kids have had experience like seeing a lighthouse up close or being able to go and walk on the rocks. Little things like that, or just even going to the supermarket. I think making those connections. I had a student who had come to me from a different homestay. And in that homestay family, the homestay mom was in charge of going grocery shopping, and she did it during a time when the students were in school, so they never actually went to a supermarket. When I had taken some students to the supermarket, they said like, oh, well, this is fantastic.
The connections you made with the students that you've been able to host and their social media now and people stay connected, the relationships that you and your family have had with students, do you still stay in contact on occasion, different times they reach out or you reach out to them?
I have the parents of the younger students from Columbia. They were in junior high, so they're not Facebook people, right?
No,
but I have their parents on social media. The parents will message and say like Merry Christmas or Happy New Year, and so it's nice that we keep in touch. My daughter keeps in touch with Shelley's girls that she had hosted, and they're making arrangements to maybe see each other this summer in Europe. And
isn't that incredible?
And
It really is.
So for me, it's mostly I do have some of the students on social media, but they don't post very often. So Instagram and things like that. So we do keep in touch, but it's not so. It's more the parents who have me on social media that'll reach out for different things.
Yeah, for sure. Students that are watching this, prospective students or parents in home countries, if they're unsure about the experience in Nova Scotia versus a big city, from your experiences, how have the students kind of adapted to rural Nova Scotia?
I think sometimes we have students coming from larger cities, and they are kind of shell-shocked when they come to small rural communities in Nova Scotia. But I think if you're here to learn English, you don't want to go to a big city where you're going to run into like multiple people speaking your language. So the best way to immerse yourself is to just go to the place that doesn't have a high population of people speaking your home language. I think it is good for people to just try something new. If you've never, experienced going to the beach or going for a walk in the forest, breathing clean air, Nova Scotia has some of the cleanest air in the world, known for UNESCO clear skies around this area. So it's really different now. Sometimes people would say it's boring, but being bored is a mindset that you can easily change sometimes.
I think you can be bored anywhere.
Right.
You can also be very engaged anywhere in the world, right? Like, to your point, the mindset and what you're going to focus on. Stacey, it's not lost on me that we're not able to host students without host families like yourself opening your hearts and homes to bring in our students from all over the world. I really appreciate your participation. Thank you for sharing your story here today. And I thank you and your family.
Well, thank you.
Thanks so much.